Okay, so Quartix, we're a 25-year established telematics provider. In English, we'll basically tell you where your vehicles are, how they got there, when were they there, how long were they for, they're there for, and the three words that sum us up: utilisation, compliance and safety. And at any point we're able to tell your fleet manager or whoever where that vehicle is, what its utilisation looks like, and in the event of an issue, obviously being able to understand where the driver is to be able to deal with that incident as quick as you possibly can.
That's incredible. So, I mean, telematics has always been a really important subject, I think. What kind of clients what businesses do you look after?
Wow, that's how broad is it long, really. I mean, we literally, if you have an ignition, we'll track. So we'll have customers with 2 and 3 units, we'll have customers with thousands. The underlying point is that it doesn't matter how big your business is, the need is the need. You still, if you operate a fleet of 2,000, you still need to know where those vehicles are and are they being efficient. And if you run a small fleet, it's just as important to make sure those vehicles are efficient and effective. So yeah, I mean, we have some big household names, but also we do look after the smaller businesses where, you know, it could be an owner with 2 or 3 vans, but facilities management, plumbing, heating, those kind of areas. We do an awful lot in the public sector. So we work with an awful lot of councils, housing associations, and more recently quite a number of fire services as well. So it's very broad. If you operate a fleet, you can be a Quartix customer.
And have you found with the quality of the data that you've produced and the fact that you've been in this marketplace for what, 25 years,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So when you're working with your customers, are you able to identify more efficient ways or journeys that they could take using your telematics data that would better support their businesses? And how does that carry with fleet decarbonisation?
Right, so most important point is that data is king. But you also want to make sure that that data is used in an effective manner. You don't want to get data overload. So when we're looking or we're sitting down with a customer, the key areas we're looking at for most customers is the underlying facts that they want to know is: where's my vehicle been? What time did it start? What time did it finish? What route was it taking? How long was it on site for? What kind of mileage is it doing? And is it back where it's meant to be at the end of the working day? So i.e., has everybody got home safe? That's the fundamental data we produce. But in relation to decarbonisation, the data now is becoming even more important in the fact that we're able to give a snapshot, whether it be over 12 months, whether it be over a week, whether it be a month, 3 months, of what vehicle activity looks like. So, for example, a prime report we would run for a customer is: how many hours a day is that vehicle operational? Importantly, how many miles is it doing? And then we can also map out where that vehicle is travelling, so so a customer can then overlay an EV charging network, for example, to identify if a vehicle's out and about, is it in an area where it can easily charge, and of course overnight, where are they? Do we need to look at home charging? Do we need to look at office charging? But primarily, our data now is a lot of it's being pulled to say, can we make that transition from an ICE vehicle to an EV?
I mean, the layering of the data and understanding what charging infrastructure is available to those fleet customers is incredibly important, and I'm glad that you are looking at that. What kind of things would you prioritize for a charger? Would it be the reliability? Would it be the price per kilowatt hour? Would it be whether it's an AC or DC charger? You know, how do you build that in, or is that a conversation that you have with your client right at the very beginning so that you can then prioritize it based on their preference?
Yeah, so basically, we don't go into the market pretending that we are EV experts on how to transition a vehicle across. What we want to do is give the customer the tools to then go to the relevant people who can help with that kind of conversation to say, look, we've identified through telematics that we should be able to transition across to an EV. These are where our vehicles are travelling. These are the vehicles that are staying at home at night, so we know we could potentially home charge with these. So we're giving I suppose, the skeleton of what you can do, and then there are the people out there, and there's plenty of them who have been on this stand today, that will then say, right, using that data, we can give you help you make the right choices with how you then decarbonise that fleet and where you need to look at your charging networks.
Incredible. Yeah, it's like all of the pieces kind of falling into place, but you have that data there to be able to offer up those types of solutions.
The way I kind of describe it is, if you think of the Quartix as a cog, we're kind of the cog in the middle that then passes that information out to relevant other different other different providers, such again as the EV transition route. And in some instances, we work with other companies where they might want to just be pulling our mileages out. But yeah, the whole idea is there's the facts that tell us that that vehicle should be able to transition across, and the customer can go take that information fully informed as to what they think they can do, and speak to the people like Lex, etc., that have been talking about that decarbonisation route. But they've got evidence that says, we believe that we have the ability to be able to make that transition across.
Nice. So you really are here doing all of the networking today, just to make sure that you.
We certainly are. Yeah,
get
absolutely.
To speak to everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, I'm just having a quick look to see if there's anything else we can get into. I really want to talk to you about safety. Safety for me is a topic very close to my heart. I don't know if you're aware. I'd previously started a business that addressed safety at public charge points. Right. So when you're collecting telematics data, I'm guessing that this is more about the driver safety. If they're driving their vehicles safely, or if so, can you just talk to me a bit more about that? What do you look for?
So the most important point is that we start at the very start of a journey. The driver, we suggest that anybody taking our product would use our QCheck product, which is a vehicle inspection app. And the first thing it asks the driver is, "Are you fit to drive?" Really important question.
Are you drunk?
Have you had?
Are you tired?
Have you had too many paracetamol? But the point is, it's a really important question to ask. And then we move into the question of, well, is the vehicle roadworthy? Is it okay to drive? If there is a problem, let's inform somebody, whether it be a fleet manager or the rental company, whatever it might be. And then from the moment that vehicle's ignition is started, we're calculating acceleration, braking, speeding, and we can identify where there may be high-risk driving. We do something that is unique. We do something called contextual speed. So we actually tell you how fast you've driven on a road compared to other road users. So you may not be breaking the speed limit, but you could potentially be operating at a mean average above the mean average flow of traffic. And so, for example, rural roads especially, we might be able to tell you that you've got a driver taking bends at 50 miles an hour, but everybody else is doing it at 40.
Rural roads, especially, I've just moved from the Cotswolds, and I was on very, very narrow, tiny, windy roads, and
you won't be doing 60 on them, will you?
15 miles per hour, because not only was I driving an electric vehicle, but there were all these beautiful deer hanging around, and they love an electric vehicle because they can't hear, and this just wander into the road, and you do become a more safe driver as a result. So yes, that context is really helpful.
Yeah, no, indeed, and again, it just puts a bit more safety into the eye of the driver as well, in the fact that we all every day, our speeds increase. Sometimes we're not realising, and the next thing you could be taking a bend far too quickly. We did a lot of work last year with Project Edward, and that was a subject we raised quite extensively around road speed, and the road speed limit is not a target. You are going to be on roads where you could be operating below the speed limit, but still contextually driving too fast than the mean average flow of traffic. And the Cotswolds is a prime point. I've also moved recently back from the Cotswolds back to Warwickshire, and a lot of rural roads.
There are. So with the data and everything that you collect, you're reporting back to fleet managers. Is that like a I don't want to say a tick box exercise, but does that support them in being able to ensure their fleet is compliant, that they're, from a HR perspective, taking care of their drivers who they're equipping with these vehicles?
Yeah, I mean, typically most people will start a job and be given the keys to a vehicle potentially worth anything from 25, 30,000 up to 70, 80,000 pounds. Not many people are put on a training course before they drive a van. And I think it was a point that was made earlier on by one of the panel that said most people who are driving vans for a living don't see themselves as drivers. Yeah. They see themselves as plumbers, heating engineers, but they're professional drivers. And they're basically driving a lethal weapon at the end of the day if you're driving it wrong. So what we're doing is giving the ability for the fleet manager to understand, or the health and safety manager to understand where risk is coming from. But we also believe in giving empowerment to the driver. So we operate a mobile app where the driver can review their own driving performances. They can see if there's been heavy braking, they can click on it, they can go and look at the road they've just been on to see where that took place. And hopefully that will change behaviour as well. So it's not just about ticking a box to say we're telling you you've got a high risk driver. We can start to help the driver understand their own performances and review how they're driving their own vehicle. At the end of the day, we want everybody to go home safe.
I mean, I'm quite a competitive person, so I do just need to ask this one last question. If I drove really well and you're recording my driving styles, would I be rewarded for driving well?
Right, so we would put you very high up our league table. We wouldn't reward you.
League table?
We have a league table. We'll tell you how good you are compared to your peer group. We don't reward you financially or with gifts. We think you should drive safely anyway. It's a bit like saying you've walked around the office without walking into a desk today. Well done.
So well done for you doing your job. Yeah, brilliant.
Absolutely,
yeah.
well done. But we do have a league table, and that's very competitive because,
I love that.
as every Wolves fan in this building today will tell you, nobody wants to be bottom of a league.
Nobody will. I don't know. I did do a paddle tournament last week. My first time playing paddle. They had the winners' trophy, and then they had the wooden spoon. And I said, you know what? Out of the two, that's the one I know I'm going home with.
Maybe we should start introducing a wooden spoon like the rugby. That would be quite cool, wouldn't it?
That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Well, thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you.
today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.